Hello, it's Phil Swann here again with another episode of Together, where we look at good mental health, well-being, and the Christian hope that there is in Jesus Christ. Well, you probably, if you followed us before, realized that we've had quite a long break, but we're getting the Together videos back on the road, and we're delighted that you've been able to find us today. We're coming into Easter, and that moment between what we know as Good Friday and Easter Day is sometimes known in some Christian traditions as Holy Saturday. Interestingly, in some other traditions, it's known as Hallelujah Saturday. But it's a reminder that as we think of the death and the resurrection of Jesus, there is this period of time which is really profound and really essential. And in many ways, it connects with us in our problems and our difficulties. I wonder if you've ever had that experience of maybe, I don't know, you turn up to work or wherever you go and you pull up next to a car and somebody's getting out of that car and you recognize them. And quickly you get out and you say, "Good morning," and they completely ignore you. What's the first thing that goes through your head? It's probably, what have I done wrong? How have I offended them? How did I upset them? We come to the conclusion that we're the problem. I'm to blame for what has happened. Now, when you think about it, we have these experiences, and that scenario can be run all over the place, isn't it? You wave at someone, you see them on the other side of the street, or you see them in the supermarket, they ignore you. But we fall back on blaming ourselves. But if you break it down, there can be all sorts of reasons why that person hasn't acknowledged you. Maybe they didn't hear you. Maybe they're preoccupied in their own thoughts. Maybe something really bad has happened and they're in a kind of shock. In other words, there can be all sorts of reasons why people blank us, and not just the ones that point us to blaming ourselves. That's just a little illustration of something that sometimes can really take hold of us. As we go through life, we find that if dark things have happened in our lives, or bad things have been done to us, we can find ourselves not just blaming ourselves for those things, but we can actually get into a way of looking at life where we blame ourselves for everything. Indeed, we don't expect life to offer us anything other than judgment, condemnation. And that happens because often when the really dark stuff comes our way, we can't make sense of it. It's overpowering, it's massive, it's huge. And yet as human beings, we need to make sense of things. So it's a lot easier to blame ourselves, even if we're not to blame. But in a strange and twisted way, it does make sense in that moment of life. And if all those things happen to us when we're really little and really young, we can carry into adult life this whole sense that life should never serve me anything other than bad things. I am to blame. And that self-blame can be so destructive, so imprisoning, and so dark. You see, the truth is sometimes in life, really bad things do happen, and dark things happen to us. And we may never talk about them to anyone else, but in making sense of them, we simply blame ourselves. Thinking of dark things and bad things takes us to, I think, in many ways, those moments between Jesus' death and his resurrection. The silence of that awful grave, provided by Joseph of Arimathea, but sealed up, not only with a stone, but with a seal upon the stone, and the Roman guards put in place. The situation appears hopeless. The disciples are disorientated. as that's what bad things do to us. And it takes us to a very dark place. I don't know if you're familiar with the Apostles' Creed. It's a really helpful statement of the things that Christians believe. And the words in the Apostles' Creed are used very sparingly. So when it comes to Jesus' death, we simply have was crucified. But when it comes to his death, we're told simply, we're given the word died, but then we're given another phrase, was buried. And another phrase after that, descended to hell or to the dead. 3 times phrases are used to get the point that Jesus died, taken away, gone. It's about as bleak and dark as it can possibly be. So how does that help you? How does that offer you hope in your dark experiences? One of the great things we need to do, and often we need a lot of help to do this, that if you're carrying really dark experiences from your past, ultimately, one of the most healing things you can do is to find somebody who is confidential, trustworthy, and capable enough to hear your story and to allow you a space to reflect on that story. It needs to be somebody who understands. Now, the amazing thing about Jesus, died, was buried, descended to the dead. He understands. He understands our darkest experiences, for he has experienced these things himself. There's an old song, no one understands like Jesus, but it is absolutely true. And maybe the first step to talking to anyone about what has gone on in your past is to talk to Jesus, who understands. Jesus once said, whoever comes to me, I will never turn away. And that's true for you. He means you in that. So maybe today, begin to think of bringing that pain into a conversation with Jesus, who in his love and mercy and kindness and compassion towards you may lead you to somebody else as well who can care for you. Well, may God encourage you in this. We're going to be doing over the next few weeks some reflections on the resurrection appearances of Jesus. And we hope you'll join us and like us and share us on social media so that these can be a help to others. God bless you.